to again just and things around that area.
And how are containment efforts going?
From what I've heard today, this should be fully contained within the next 3 days. And that is in the Carolina Forest area. So the city of Myrtle Beach does not have any active fires in the city.
Have you been in touch with Governor McMaster's office? Has he reached out, or have you reached out?
I have not spoken to him, but I have been in touch with people on his staff.
All right, we're just seeing some of the incredible footage from over the weekend. We checked in with our colleague there, Fox News multimedia reporter Chelsea Torres, about that very story. She was on the scene as well, and we'll continue with some of these updates. Mayor Bethune there in Myrtle Beach, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you all.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to keep it moving with more of these top headlines. Had to get that in there. It was a major story we were following over this.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I am doing a live stream on YouTube. It is March 3rd. We're going to go over the news. It's very cold in New York today. And please help support my work by making sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please subscribe to all 7 channels. Also, make sure that you follow me on X. I have 2 channels on X and 1 on GETTR. Follow me there. That way you can get the notifications and get around the censorship with YouTube. Also, by following my work, you get informed about what's going on in economics and in finance, what's going on with domestic policy in the United States, and what's going on with international affairs. How to improve your health and wellness, and other scientific endeavors. So please ask your social media to follow me. We're going to be going through some tumultuous times, especially in the market. The market is starting to shake and rattle because of what Trump said about tariffs today. In addition, it's really important to start paying attention to some of the things that are happening in Asia and in Africa in terms of epidemiology. All right, let's just keep it at that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great products that I offer, such as the structural nano silver soaps. I have 4 different varieties. I have it in lemongrass or in charcoal tea tree. Very high quality structural nano silver soaps. These are soaps that I use. Get a couple bars for your household. I also have 2 other types in new packaging, lavender and peppermint. Both of these are structural nano silver. So get a few bars for your household. It's great, very high quality. It has the structural nano silver to help with your health and wellness. Also, I've partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we've developed these deodorants that are dual purpose. They detoxify your body, and you use them as a deodorant. They're made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Very high quality. These deodorants are aluminum free and baking soda free. You can get them in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, tea tree. Very high quality deodorants for males and females. Use it every day because you don't want to smell, and you can detoxify your body at the same time. Now, you tell me, what deodorant are you typically using at the grocery store that will do both of those, that are made from essential oils from the Himalayas? None of them. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Don't smell and detoxify your body at the same time. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to live now about the tariffs here.
We're sharing are a little strange because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring us. It's very important as we deal with smuggling and GETTR things that are here. So we count on our U.S. partners and work together and do their equal share. But when we're thought as of having not done our equal share, we become somewhat ostracized.
Around a quarter of all trade between the U.S. and Canada happens over the bridge between Windsor and Detroit, according to Canada Global Affairs. The auto industry keeps the two cities working closely together, but tariffs could impact production on both sides of the border. The president of Canada's Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, Flavio Flope, says every car that comes off the line in Windsor passes over the border between 4 to 8 times. That's because the industries work so closely together during the manufacturing process. If Trump goes through with this, and today he says he will, the average price of a new car could increase by $3,000, according to S&P Global. And Flope says we could see mass layoffs.
Auto workers and auto parts workers from Michigan to Texas, 900,000 of them, out of work on temporary layoff while we figure this out. The biggest threat is to American companies, General Motors, Ford, Stellantis with the Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, Dodge brands.
Trump saying to reporters today that this is a very exciting time for the industry, and if other countries want to avoid tariffs, they should build in the United States. Andrew.
All right, Kaylee's got it there live for us in Canada, Windsor, Ontario. I know it well. Kaylee, thanks so much. We'll be following this story all throughout the course of the day tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to get into some breaking news. We're going to step away from the tariff talk for now. Of course, we'll be talking about that throughout the course of the next few days here. I want to briefly, though, go to some updates, some major breaking news on U.S.-Ukrainian relations and U.S. support for the war in Ukraine. As you know, stemming from that very, very contentious Oval Office meeting between Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday and President Trump here. I want to put this tweet up from Fox's Lucas Tomlinson with this, saying that the United States is pausing all U.S. military aid to Ukraine until President Trump determines the Ukrainians show a commitment to good faith peace negotiations. That's according to a senior Trump administration official telling Fox News this. Now, that same official emphasized this is not permanent termination of aid. It's a pause. And the orders are going out right now. Now, the official said this is in response to Ukrainian President Zelensky's conduct over the last week. So remember how Pepper and I will be discussing this in the 7 o'clock hour. And it's not entirely sure whether this covers all of the aid already congressionally appropriated or any aid yet to come here. But they are emphasizing the point this is not a indefinite stoppage. It's just a pause for now, and seemingly some type of negotiating tactic by President Trump to maybe bring Zelensky back to the table after Trump kicked him out of the White House on Friday. After that meeting that you all watched live, really turned heated and confrontational there. So in the meantime, wanted to make sure we got that news to you right now. We're going to be, like I said, speaking to some of our national security analysts and experts.
Hello, for the ones that have joined just recently, I have opened up the X Spaces. If you would like to do a call in and ask questions, please do. This is supposed to be interactive. You may be hearing a little bit of background noise because I am running a heater because it's extremely cold in New York today. Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to go to another, I want to go to CNN here. This was posted about 7 hours ago. They're talking to a NOAA worker that was fired.
Severely cut is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA for short. The agency forecasts severe weather emergencies across the country. We hear a lot from them every hurricane season, and their forecasts save lives. With us now is Tom DiLiberto, former public affairs specialist and climate scientist at NOAA's Office of Communications. He was laid off last week. We're sorry for what you're going through. How'd you find out you were getting fired?
Yeah, I found out on last Thursday, got a boilerplate email about 3:45 p.m. that kind of followed the OPM directives that said that I'm a probationary employee, so I could be assessed, and that my skills and abilities no longer met the agencies need, which is ridiculous.
Talk to us about the agency and the impact that these cuts will have. I cover hurricanes every year, and I know how people depend on these forecasts. But what will the cuts? How will the cuts impact that?
Yeah, NOAA stands for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So if you like the oceans or you are impacted by the weather in any sort of way, which really means everybody, you're going to be impacted by this. A ton of people got fired. That's basically going to lead to a short-staffed agency that was already short-staffed, now trying to do more with less. And that is just asking for a disaster to happen. We know extreme weather is going to happen, hurricanes, tornadoes, snowstorms. And now we're asking an agency to basically try and forecast these, make the public aware of the impact, but do it with less people. You're just asking for a mistake to happen. You're asking for burnout to occur. And it's just pointless when you look at the importance of what NOAA does.
You say that the cuts will actually end up costing money. How?
Yeah, so NOAA, it's been well known that $1 into NOAA needs to be many more dollars coming out because of just exactly what NOAA does. NOAA makes sure that people and places and communities and buildings don't suffer disasters as strongly as they otherwise would. NOAA is in charge of making sure that fishery industry is as healthy as can possibly be. It's also in charge of making sure coastal areas are not as impacted by erosion and sea level rise. So by basically getting rid of these things or making it more difficult for NOAA to do its job, they're basically going to cause there to be more money being spent and more damages being felt than otherwise happening.
Why do you think NOAA was targeted?
Spend too much money on climate bullshit.
I think this is a clear across the board attack on science. They don't like necessarily what NOAA does as relates to climate change. And they don't like necessarily the fact that we help people because of the fact that we just help people. There's no ulterior motives at NOAA. We're trying to help the American public. At no point at NOAA has anyone ever said we're not going to give important information, data, and resources to a community based on who that community voted for. But we do know someone has done that. The president has done that when it's related to wildfires out in California. So I think there's a lot of issues with just the fact that we help others purely because we want to help others and because we're trying to help people deal with increasing extremes as it relates to climate change.
You're going to protest today in front of the NOAA building. What message do you want to send? What do you hope to accomplish?
I think it's important for people to know just how integral NOAA is into literally everything that they do. The forecasters at CNN are really great forecasters, but they're utilizing NOAA data all the time. Whether they're talking about observations, whether they're talking about who can determine whether a tornado is an EF2 or ocean impacts or hurricanes. And I just want people to know that when it comes to who cares about the American public, it's federal workers. We do. Federal workers care so deeply about the American public because it's all we've wanted to do since we were kids growing up. I wanted to be a meteorologist when I was 8 years old, and I was able to live out that dream. And I want the American public to know that NOAA is still going to try and do everything they can to make sure that you're safe. But now we're having an issue where they're going to have to do it with one hand tied behind their back.
What's next for you personally?
Well, we're going to a protest later today. I'm going to keep speaking out about the importance of NOAA and helping to represent those who are fired and also the amazing people who are still left at NOAA. And then I'm going to keep looking for jobs as it relates to communication about weather and climate. It's what I love to do, and I like to keep doing that.
What do you just give me a sense of what this next hurricane season will be like with these cuts?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
So,
Wait. Slow down. You're not going to be able to change hurricanes if you lay off people at NOAA, like as if hurricanes didn't exist pre-NOAA. I mean, come on. Now, what they're going to be able to do is forecast out. But guess what? There's going to be so much information. You got satellite data that you can get on a website. All right. And the news organizations have also their own local news radar. All right. So laying off some people at NOAA, even if it's 25% of NOAA or even 50% of NOAA, all right, you're still going to get the news that, you know what? There's maybe 3 or 4 days out, there might be a hurricane. You may want to, put up some boards on your windows and leave for a while. It's not going to do much. First of all, it's not going to stop a hurricane. And second of all, there's enough other ways to get the information that people will know that a hurricane's coming.
Hired at the Aircraft Operations Center in Lakeland, Florida. That's where the hurricane hunters are. I believe the flight director was fired from AOC. There were technicians fired, people who are engineers as well. So we know every single year, sometimes those kind of airplanes sometimes break down or need a replacement part. That's going to be harder to fix now. We have less people to do that. We don't have the ability necessarily to fly all the planes 24/7 than we did before. We're also looking at, just in general, more stress on the National Weather Service, who are the folks who make these forecasts. And we know there are firings across the forecast offices across the United States, across the Gulf of Mexico as well. So basically, you're taking a situation that's already fraught, hurricane season. So
okay, let's just assume there's no fat that you can trim from NOAA. All right. The government is bankrupt. The American taxpayer can't afford it anymore. You need to restructure, even if they do good work and blah, 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 and there's no fat to cut. All right. Guess what? If the money ain't there, you can't have it. It's that simple. No matter how important you think it is.
We see the impact of this every single year. And now you're saying, oh, let's tinker with this. That's a horrible idea. In no world does that make anybody safer.
Tom DeLordo, we appreciate you being with us. Sorry to hear about your job. I hope the future is bright for you.
So many people likely had no idea what the Office of Personnel Management was before Doge walked in.
All right, so now what I want to do is go to Al Jazeera. This looks like the head of Eurasia group talking here.
So that to me is very instructive of what the emerging U.S. position is. And I don't think it's good for Ukraine, Europe, or ultimately the United States.
Well, that's going to be where we're going to have to end it for today. That's the time we have. Thank you so much to all our guests, Robert Hamilton, Marina Miron, and PJ
Right.
Crowley.
Let's go to Bloomberg here for a second. It was recorded today.
On Friday, and the rupture in transatlantic relations and the breakdown in the Oval Office. When you saw that, and when you think about the consequences it could have for the economic picture in Europe, for military spending, and for what it could mean for financial markets too, Mohammed, what are your thoughts at the moment?
Thanks for having me, John. My thoughts is that feeds into some existing themes, both top-down and bottom-up, and intensifies them. So top-down, we've had issues of fiscal realignment, and that's going to feed into fiscal realignment, including putting pressure on the debt rate in Germany, including the question of how does it interact with what Doge is doing in the US. Secondly, it feeds into the energy market and how we think about the energy market. And third, it feeds into the realignment of the global order that also has a trade element to it and a currency element to it. So you have all these top-down factors that are being amplified. And then the bottom-up factor that's being amplified is defense. And we are seeing significant sector differences occurring, as you would expect. So I think of it, John, not as unprecedented, which are the words that the political science and the international relations people are using, but in the field of economics and finance, it is amplifying things that were there already.
So, Mohammed, a number of weeks ago, we said on this program that the President of the United States may well push the Europeans into doing things that might be good for them. You wrote in the Financial Times about a month ago, the mounting risk to US exceptionalism. How does some of these things across these dimensions play into what you wrote about a month ago?
So, John, both the good news and the bad news is we have a very action-oriented administration, has come in, it has hit the ground running, if not sprinting. And if you're a business, it feels like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. there's energy issues, there's immigration issues, there are trade issues, there are public sector issues, including public sector contract, there are regulation issues. So you're trying to absorb all this. And what we've seen is sentiment has come down and there's been a wait and see attitude, because most of these things impact both your income and your expenditure. So it's really hard to figure out how all these things are going to play out. Then there is the international relations side of it, your trading side of it. So the worry that I have is that the lack of ability by the public sector to absorb all this results in a wait-and-see attitude. That wait-and-see attitude comes at a time when we already have a bit of a whiff of stagflation going on. And next thing you know, people start questioning US economic exceptionalism. And if they do, two things happen. You start questioning the only reliable engine of growth for the global economy, and you start questioning the shield that markets have had against all sorts of geopolitical and political aspects.
That's a lot of hair on the American exceptionalism story. And we've been talking to people about it for the past couple of weeks about the concerns, the lack of certainty, the on hold kind of nature of a lot of CEOs. And yet, when you ask them, they still say they prefer to invest in the US over the rest of the world. If Europe went through with a 900 billion euro spending package on defense and infrastructure, would that shift for you? Would you see brighter shoots in Europe?
No, it wouldn't shift for me. I would still prefer the US over Europe for the simple reason that Europe doesn't have a genuine and durable growth engine. So maybe defense contributes in the short term to growth, but they need to get a handle on some really fundamental things. I encourage everybody to read the Draghi report. The Draghi report is a really good assessment of what has gone wrong in terms of investment, in terms of competitiveness and productivity, and what needs to go right. And that should be your benchmark when you assess future growth prospects in Europe.
So what happens, Mohammed, if this American exceptionalism story is challenged to the degree that you're laying out, and a lot of people are worried about, but there isn't a brighter alternative in Europe?
That's the concern, because remember, I've always said the good and the bad and the ugly of the global economy. The good is the US, the bad is China, and the ugly is Europe. And if you don't see China and Europe converge up to the US, there's a risk that the US will converge down to the other two. It is a risk scenario. It is not the baseline, I want to stress. But in mid-January, no one was questioning US economic exceptionalism. And now, as you point out, a lot more people are starting to worry about it.
Mohammed, what do you make of the tariffs? Do you think they're actually going to come on tomorrow, or do you think the market consensus of that maybe China, of course, goes on, but there will be a pause, another pause or a pass when it comes to Canada and Mexico is the accurate way to view this?
I don't know, Anne-Marie. I really don't know. I don't think anybody knows but the president. But what has become clear is that there are three sets of tariffs. And that explains why the president was pursuing so many objectives with tariffs. You know, when he came out in October, when he said it's my favorite word, he said it can raise revenue, it can result in fairer trade, it can put pressure on both adversaries and allies, and in addition, it can protect US industry. And the initial reaction of the economists was too many objectives for a single tool. But we're seeing now what is happening. You have a set of general tariffs that do the revenue side and the reciprocity side, the fair trade side. You have a set of sector-specific tariff, aluminum, steel, that protect industry. And then you have a third set of tariffs aimed at particular countries to get particular outcomes. And I think that that's the thing we're going to live with for the next few months, if not next few years, which is multifaceted trade policy.
Mohammed, for the first time in a long time, there was a Fed official in the last week that considered stagflation. I'm sure you noticed the same comments. Downside risk to growth and upside risk to inflation. If we were to have a Fed's dual mandate that went into conflict, how do you suppose would be the best way to approach that situation?
It's tough. It's really tough. Stagflation is the nightmare of policymakers. And it is the nightmare of a Fed with a dual mandate, as you point out. So it's really tough. I worry, like you had in the introduction, that we've had a reactionary Fed. So the Fed is not going to be getting ahead of this anytime soon. I hope it understands it, but it's not going to be getting ahead of it anytime soon. So the risk is, John, that monetary policy continues to amplify volatility rather than acting as an anchor of stability. That's the risk we face right now.
Mohammed, can you just give us a sense of the trajectory of your belief that the economy can withstand all of this in the United States as the year has progressed? I realize that it's the beginning of March, but how much more worried are you now than, say, 2 weeks ago about a real calling into question of American exceptionalism and a real rolling over of the U.S. economy?
You know, it's by nature. I've been worried for a while. I put out an FT op-ed on February 14th, saying be careful that slowly we may see the erosion of U.S. economic exceptionalism, and that's bad news for everybody, not just the U.S., for everybody. So I've been worried for a while, and I've seen sort of three elements that have made me worry. One is the way business is reacting to all these policy changes, which increasingly is wait and see. We think it's going to be fine, but let's wait and see. Second, we know that the lower segments of the household income distribution is under enormous pressure, and that has been a concern for a while. And then the third issue is the risk of a Fed policy mistake. So these things have been there, and now they've amplified because of what's been going on.
So my co-CEO calls me up at 2 a.m. in the morning and says, Alex, the drug is effective in patients. I cried.
Yeah, that's lovely. All right, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the magnesium and zinc. This is very important to boost up your immune system. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a double dose. Take one dose in the morning, take another in the evening. Drink it with filtered water because it's water soluble. Boost up that immune system by taking magnesium and zinc. Should be taking magnesium and zinc every day. Also, something that you should be taking every day is a probiotic. I have a powdered version and a veggie cap version. Taking a probiotic is really important to bring down inflammation in your gut, improve your nutrient absorption. It'll improve your immune system. It'll reduce leaky gut syndrome, reduce the chances of mutations in the crypt of your gut, the gut lining, and it improves the communication between your gut and your liver and your gut and your brain. When you take a good probiotic and you have a good gut biome, your skin's going to improve, your hair, your nails, your mental acuity will be better, your sleep will be better. It's been found that poor gut health can lead to early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. So guess what? It behooves you to pay attention to your gut. Get the powdered version or the veggie cap version on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Now, something else that you should be getting, and you better start preparing, because the season that we're in, the cold season that we're in now, is worse than last year. All right? I did a video, I think it's episode 24, showing peak to peak relative to this year compared to last year, and also month of the data, the current month data, to the same, the current week data for this season, comparing it to the same week last season. So peak to peak or week to week, this season's worse. So you got to start paying attention to boosting up your immune system. All right. So let's leave it at that for right now. But let's go to Sky News about Ukraine.
Test of our times, a crossroads in our history.
As he spoke, President Trump was launching another tirade against President Zelensky, the Prime Minister walking a difficult tightrope.
I also welcome the President's continued commitment to that peace, which nobody in this House should doubt for a second is sincere.
The peace plan will likely be British boots on the ground in Ukraine. For the Prime Minister, it's a necessary show of strength.
To a strong peace, a just peace, a lasting peace, that has now to be our goal. It is vital, it is in our interests, and its pursuit, Britain will lead from the front. We must now win the peace. Can we bet it all?
Agreement across the chamber.
There are, of course, many areas where the Prime Minister and I disagree, but now is the time for us to discuss where we do agree. At times like these, it is so important that we stand together to defend shared values and the fundamental, basic principle that aggressors should not win.
There were
The country faces both geopolitical and
economic challenges, cutting foreign aid to fund defence spending.
Does the Prime Minister understand the concern of so many that these cuts could, in fact, in the long term, hobble the very leadership that the Prime Minister has shown this weekend?
The PM's new man in Washington already under fire too for suggesting Ukraine lays down its arms at once.
Speaker, many of us were confused by Lord Mandelson's comments yesterday. So can the Prime Minister confirm that they do not represent government policy?
The Prime Minister swerved the challenges and was mostly able to enjoy that rare common scene, unity.
I find myself in a strange and rather uncomfortable position of very much agreeing with the Prime Minister on everything he has said. I think this weekend he has not really put a foot wrong. It's been good to have him agreeing with me. We should do this more often.
The Commons united behind the Prime Minister today, just as problems started to emerge. Keir Starmer told MPs that he needs more from the US to guarantee Ukraine's security than a minerals deal alone. Meanwhile, President Trump launched a blistering attack against President Zelensky. He's leading the European response, but it feels like a race against time before the White House could pull the plug. President Trump's closest ally in Parliament thinks Friday's White House row actually leaves peace closer than ever.
Zelensky needed to wake up and smell the coffee, and since that meeting he's done so. But the upshot of it is the minerals agreement will be signed within the next week or 2 weeks, and that will be the first step towards a ceasefire and a peace agreement.
A ceasefire within days has been floated by the French. Pressure is mounting from America. Can the Prime Minister keep everyone on board? Sam Coates, Sky News, Westminster.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has confirmed 25% taxes on imports from Mexico and Canada will start today, sparking renewed fears.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver lozenges that I have. You can get it in Manuka honey or in elderberry zinc. You get 21 in each bag. Get a few bags for your household. Have it at work. Have it in your house. Right when you have that irritation, either during the cold season or during the allergy season, you want to mitigate that irritant right away, so you're preventing further problems down the road. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take the lozenges. The moment you have that irritant, it's made from structural nano silver. I also have them in the drop form. Drops are smaller than the lozenges. You get 100 drops in each bag. And I have it in cherry version, honey and lemon, and in blueberry. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a few bags for your household. It tastes great, but even better, they're made from structural nano silver, and it will neutralize the irritant, all right, and improve your oral cavity and create a barrier, all right, and that is going to improve your innate immune system. So please go to my store and get the lozenges and the drops. Be prepared. Trust me on this. Be prepared. The moment you have that irritation, you want to take it right away. Please go to my store and get the multivitamin that I have. It's an easy to digest multivitamin. It's a high quality multivitamin. You need this for proper enzymatic activity. People don't know that multivitamins and minerals are cofactors for many enzymes. And if you don't have those cofactors at the right concentrational levels, your enzymes don't work as efficiently. Therefore, your cellular processes are subpar. So please go to my store, make sure you take this multivitamin, take it every day, and guess what? You stack it with other things that I'm going to be talking about, and you're going to get really healthy. So please go to my store and get this multivitamin. All right? Use discount 5, all caps, discount 5. All right, I want to go to the Asian session here in CNBC.
For the US indices. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us today. Jimmy Lee of the Wealth Consulting Group. Well, Stress Science is out and about today. Monica Cottrell is an aviation event at RFAX 2025. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue though, does it, Monica? But what's on the agenda out there?
Right. Well, Mandy, this is the first exposition dedicated solely to
All right,
business
there's a lot of
aviation.
background noise. There's a lot of background noise in her recording. So let's go to CNA, talking about the Asian session.
Of 1%, Australia remains underwater by 0.1%. Of course, investors there are also eyeing potential Chinese stimulus package expected to be announced at the country's annual parliamentary gathering known as the Two Sessions. And checking on AI-related stocks in Asia, shares of industry darling Nvidia sank some 9% on tariff fears. Asian chip makers here taking a hit there, with advances continuing to lead the way downwards 7.5%. Investors, they are also weighing the effects of a chip giant TSMC's new U.S. expansion plans. It has pledged a fresh $100 billion in investments. So shares of the world's largest chip manufacturer, though, is down some 2%. Earlier, Bob Dole, Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investment, says cyclical consumer goods would be among the hardest hit from President Trump's tariffs.
Go back to almost a month ago when there was talk about these tariffs for Canada and Mexico. And the next day, President took that threat away. So I think there was some hope on Wall Street that the proposed tariffs of 25% on Canada and Mexico would in fact go away. And that was part of the reason for the sell-off. The U.S. is starting to see some weakening in the economy. So I think that has some people concerned about earnings, et cetera. Obviously, the cyclicals in general are the ones that are most difficult. The goods-related cyclicals, of course, that includes autos and various parts of technology. Less so the domestic cyclicals, although they would get hurt if the economy weakens. Look, tariffs are a tax, and that means somebody's prices go up, or maybe everybody's prices go up, and that's not been received well by investors. I was hoping when President Trump a week or so ago used the phrase reciprocal tariffs, that might actually be good news, because if you're charging me 3% and I'm not charging you anything, and we do reciprocal tariffs, I'm coming after you for 3%. But you might say, before you do that, how about if I take mine off, and we could actually see tariffs falling? So far, that's just wishful thinking.
Malaysia semiconductor industry is facing uncertainty amid concerns that the U.S. will hike tariffs on imported chips. The country, which is seeking to be a vital part of the global chip supply chain, is worried that tariffs could affect its exports and also hurt new investments. Melissa Go takes a closer look at the prospective steep U.S. tariffs on the chip sector.
Known as the Silicon Valley of the East, Malaysia's Penang state is a major hub for semiconductor manufacturing. It's buzzing with high-tech factories, innovation hubs, and research centers, attracting billions of investments from multinational corporations. Penang Chief Minister says any U.S. tariff hikes are not beneficial to anyone.
So basically, their own company will be impacted, although we will be impacted in the sense that if factories here are impacted, our jobs will be impacted. Whatever tariff policy should recognize the fact that it is their own people that will be impacted as well.
The Penang Chief Minister is hoping that Malaysia, as ASEAN chair this year, will be able to commence an ASEAN-US summit either here in Malaysia or in the United States as soon as possible to facilitate friendly engagements and dialogues with authorities in order to minimize the impact of proposed US tariffs and restrictions on the semiconductor industry. This, as Penang, aims to cement its position not just as a regional, but a global semiconductor hub.
Malaysia is the world's sixth largest exporter of semiconductors, worldwide accounting for 13%. The chip industry hopes that any US tariffs will be fair and level the playing field.
But I think it has got to do with what Donald Trump wants to do. If he slap a tariff, like say 25% worldwide to all semiconductor companies or countries, then it doesn't really matter because we are all equal, 25%, so we compete. But if some countries are 25%, some countries are 10%, of course, if we are 10%, then we have a big advantage.
To stay ahead of the competition, Malaysia is trying to move up the value chain.
We are now shifting gear as well into promoting IC design, which is something that would open more opportunity and make us more resilient as well.
Industry experts say that the government also needs to work closely with the industry to encourage smaller players to become local champions.
We need to have a very bold and clear plan of moving this forward, because we have to push the boundary. And the government needs to work with us to really develop a safe environment or incentivize us to really push that, because we have to move the entire industry. Increasing the pay cannot be done only by one company or one organization. It has to be by the entire industry.
While better pay will address brain drain and attract the right talent, raising salaries will be tough if the industry continues to focus on assembly and packaging.
Wages need to be more competitive. We are working with headquarters and saying, pay our people more, commensurate with the value you extract out of Malaysia. But which is why we went from 10 engineers to 100 to now thousands and thousands. With the finite resources we have, double down on AI, teach the students how to learn AI, and then go after the bigger slice of the supply chain in the world.
If the US president seeks to swiftly close the nearly $17 billion trade deficit with Malaysia, Putrajaya expects US tariffs to halve Malaysia's trade growth this year, and that could harm its key exports, particularly semiconductors, raising concerns about the country's economic stability. Melissa Go, CNA, Georgetown, Malaysia.
Cryptocurrencies took a sharp turn lower overnight as optimism quickly evaporated over President Donald Trump's proposal to set up a national strategic crypto reserve. Bitcoin backpedaled after an early rise. Prices of its peers such as Ether, XRP, Solana, those also headed south. Now, the decline comes as traders turn more cautious amid a shortage of details about Mr. Trump's planned crypto initiative. In a recent post on Truth Social, Mr. Trump mentioned that his January executive order on digital assets would set up a stockpile of major cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Now, this announcement sparked a brief rally in digital asset prices yesterday. Now, some analysts have warned that a random selection of speculative tools like this may enrich the insiders and creators of these coins at the expense of U.S. taxpayers. While Trump has appointed several crypto-friendly officials since he took office, the detailed policy announcements for investors remain absent so far. He will host a crypto summit later this week. A BYD now reinforcing hopes of a revival in Chinese stocks after a years-long slump. The electric vehicle maker has raised $5.6 billion in an upsized share sale that is Hong Kong's largest in 4 years. The term sheet shows that the share offerings had been increased by 10% on the back of a record-breaking month for overseas sales in February. BYD is reportedly looking to use the fresh capital to expand its overseas business and invest in research and development. The firm earlier announced plans to localize production in several parts of the world to bypass growing tariffs on China-made EVs. And that is your business update. And aspect to you, Juliana. All right, Liz, thank you very much. Still ahead on Asia First, the Vatican says Pope Francis suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure, but remained alert and oriented during treatment.
We give you. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ashwagandha root. This helps to control your glucose levels and your cortisol levels. It'll bring down inflammation. Very important for your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Turmeric brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. Very important for your immune system and your cardiovascular system. And lignans brings down inflammation and soaks up free radicals. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods or with just filtered water, a smoothie, however you want to take it every day. It also helps with your endocrine system. Something that you should be taking every day to boost up your immune system and help with your endocrine system. And because it's bringing down inflammation, it stacks really well with turmeric. It stacks really well with ashwagandha. And I've been talking about this core health protocol. Has 4 pillars. The first pillar is taking max 35 or max 14 to improve your immune system. The second pillar is taking C60. The third pillar is taking turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans together to bring down inflammation and boost up your immune system. And the last pillar of the core protocol is taking Boomer Boost, which is a powder that boosts up your energy levels and increases your metabolism. And when you stack it, this health protocol, you're going to see major benefits in your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, stack the lignans, the turmeric, and the ashwagandha together to really supercharge bringing down inflammation, helping with your cardiovascular system, and helping with your immune system. It's a dual purpose. I'm telling you how to stack these things so you get multiple benefits. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5 on any order, and you get $5 off. All right, I want to once CNBC gets back online, we're going to go to them. Let me plug another product here while we wait for them to come back online. Zeolite. Really important to take to detoxify your body. You should be detoxifying your body every day. There's different ways, and there's different products that I have that helps to detoxify your body. This is a great one. This helps to remove heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, including forever chemicals. Take 2 drops, small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that every day. Some people prefer to do a more intense detox. For those individuals, put 5 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, do that every day until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. But it is better to do a maintenance every day. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, take the zeolite and detoxify your body. Really important to drink filtered water and stay away from processed foods. Now let's go back to CNA.
Where's Zelensky?
President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
Still, the American leader says he doesn't think the Ukraine minerals deal is dead, but he wants Mr. Zelensky to be, quote, more appreciative of U.S. supplies.
Asian markets track Wall Street lower as President Trump ends a month-long delay and confirms 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Plus, China mulling over retaliatory measures with import duties on its goods being doubled.
Taiwan's biggest company, TSMC, promises to spend at least $100 billion in the U.S. against the backdrop of tariff threats and tensions with mainland China. In the deal-making, President Trump declares an invasion of the island would be catastrophic.
All right, what I want to do is go to CNBC right now.
but the China tech plays with some considerable downside. Alibaba off 3%, Xiaomi shares down almost 3% as well. We want to check shares of BYD, one of the EV makers, raising up to $5.2 billion in a share placement. 118 million shares, priced between 333 and 345 Hong Kong dollars per share. That represents up to an 8.4% discount to yesterday's close. The proceeds going towards R&D, overseas expansion, replenishing its working capital, and general corporate purpose. The book building for this beginning just last evening or just yesterday. Now, this is the biggest fundraising for BYD since the company IPO'd in 2002. We are tracking, of course, also the likes of Mixue. This is the newest stock on the Hong Kong market, and yesterday a stunning 47% rally. This is the fresh drinks maker, the biggest in the world by store count. And with that, we're seeing a little bit of profit taking kick in today. The issue price was $202.50, and we're trying to hold at about $290, which was yesterday's close. So currently, negative bias off the 0.3%. Another big story that we are tracking today is in the Taiwan market. So before we go, just want to take a quick pulse check here. TSMC shares holding with losses of about 2%. This is on the back of the company's announcement of a $165 billion investment in the United States to eventually build out 6 factories in total. So we heard from C.C. Wei, chairman and CEO. We heard from President Trump as well, but the reaction has been negative. U.S. shares down 4%, and the Taiwan-listed shares also following this weakness, traded down about 2%. 30 minutes into the trading day. Let's get that back to Mandy and a look at the Chinese market open.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Em. Well, of course, the mainland China market is dealing with quite a lot of things, including the imposition of the extra 10% tariff on Chinese goods starting today and coinciding with, as Em mentioned just a moment ago, the kickoff of the NPC and 2 sessions. So we have the Shenzhen Composite opening to the downside right now by about 0.4%. The Chinex currently down by nearly 1%. As for the Chinese currency, let's take a look at how that one is doing, given the fact that we saw quite a big drop in the DXY overnight, largely as not just US dollar yields dropping, but the euro absolutely soared. So you've got the spot rate sitting there at 7.28, offshore 7.29. The PBOC also recently reiterated that it does want a stable currency. So let's get back.
So I'm going to go to Fox Business. They're interviewing Gingrich.
Between House and Senate Republicans, we are all on one big team with the same mission, and that is to deliver the America First agenda. Heading up to the March 14th deadline, we'll have to probably pass a clean CR instead of separate approach bills. Why? Because the Democrats in Congress were trying to demand that as a condition of appropriations that we would somehow tie the hands of the president, limit his authority. Our goal is to make the tax cuts permanent, and we need to do that because it gives stability to people who are trying to make decisions long term. The devil's in the details is in every piece of legislation to find out how exactly to enact the savings that will allow us to do that. But I think we'll have enough room to do it. It starts Monday morning, but we've been doing the preparation for it for more than a year. So I'm absolutely convinced that we're going to accomplish this mission.
And that's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, with me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures with the next steps on reconciliation ahead of the March 14th government shutdown deadline. Wyoming Senator Cynthia Loomis joined us last week here on how to make the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent. What?
I think that the Senate is really focused on making the 2017 tax cuts permanent. And that would be something that the House bill does not yet do. So there needs to be discussions between House and Senate leaders and the White House to make sure we can make those cuts permanent, and that then we can address some of the issues related to other entitlement programs.
So you could make the argument that you still need a 2-track process here because you want to make the tax cuts permanent.
You got it. I do make that argument and support that argument.
Joining me now is former Speaker of the House and Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. He's the author of the upcoming book, Trump's Triumph, which can be pre-ordered right now. Newt, great to see you. Congrats on the new book. That is a good one. You told me the last time we were together that the tax bill needs to be on Trump's desk
no later than the 4th of July. That's the absolute latest. Unless if it doesn't impact the midterm elections. What are your thoughts here? Mike Johnson had a big victory getting that budget resolution passed last week, but the Senate makes the point, as you just heard from Cindy Loomis, that their plan on 2 tracks makes the tax cuts permanent. How do you see it?
Well, I don't understand the Senate's point. I mean, if they've got a plan that makes the tax cut permanent, roll it into one bill and do it. There doesn't have to be 2 bills. I don't get it. The fact is that Speaker Johnson understands that he's part of a governing coalition. That with a Republican president, Donald Trump, the job of House and Senate Republicans is to find a way to get to yes. You know, when you're the opposition party, you find a way to get to no. And unfortunately, some of the House Republicans in particular got into that habit of saying no all the time. The victory the other day was really extraordinarily important. The bill was passed, a one big beautiful bill, as the president put it. Speaker Johnson got almost all the way there. President Trump got the last few votes and put him over the top. There's no excuse for the Senate to not now look at how do we get the tax cuts. And I'm happy if they can get them permanent. But we need to get them done so that the 2026 economy is dramatically stronger. We're sliding towards a recession. And that's just a fact. We've inherited, just as Reagan inherited Carter's bad economy, President Trump inherited Biden's bad economy. To power your way out of that bad economy, you need deregulation and tax cuts, and you need them in May, June, at the very latest, the 4th of July, so they have effect in 2026. That is vital if what we're trying to do is keep control of the House and not allow the Democrats to cripple the last 2 years of the Trump presidency with investigations, impeachments, all the things Nancy Pelosi did.
Yeah, and that's what I keep bringing up, the fact that, look, we're already looking at a situation where President Trump inherited a tough economy, but now with Doge cutting jobs and slimming down the government, people are asking the question, does that induce a recession? You know, look at the GDP now numbers. They're expecting a contraction in the first quarter.
Right, and I think there's a natural process here. If you want to, in fact, get spending under control, you're going to reduce the fiscal stimulation of the economy by government spending. On the other hand, you're going to start bringing down interest rates. And if you pass the tax cuts and the deregulation, you're going to create an environment where people want to create businesses. They want to be able to go out and hire people. And with the revolution that's coming in artificial intelligence, you're just going to see a continuing move in the direction of America being the most competitive society in the world.
Yeah.
But it has to happen quickly in order to keep the House Republican in 2026.
Yeah, you make the right point. They're obviously thinking about this. Is tomorrow night, President Trump will address a joint session of Congress at 9 p.m. Eastern. Yesterday, Mike Johnson said, "Oh, it's got to be fireworks, Maria." Democrats, however, are again planning this whole resist. I don't understand this. They're reportedly bringing guests they claim who have been, quote, harmed by the Trump administration's early actions, or those people who will be hurt by the House Republican budget. Not sure who they're referring to, but Michigan Senator Elisa Slotkin is set to deliver the official rebuttal from Democrats. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said that she's going to explain how Democrats are fighting to protect Social Security and Medicaid while Republicans are cutting taxes for billionaires and Elon Musk. Newt, how do you see it?
Well, look, they don't get it. The fact is the country believes government's too big. The country believes, in one Gallup poll, that almost 50% of federal spending is waste. The country believes that the system is corrupt. And certainly if you look at some of the things we're learning from Doge, there's no question that, I mean, even I've been very shocked at some of the things we were paying for and some of the things that are pure waste. I think when you talk about, for example, Medicaid, there's a substantial amount of fraud. If you have the same level of fraud in Medicaid that you have with Visa or MasterCard or American Express, you would save hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, if the Democrats want to be the party that insists on paying crooks, and they want to be the party that insists on supporting waste, that's their prerogative. But the American people do not want to be told the government is so wonderful that it cannot be reformed, it cannot be touched. And I think the Democrats are walking into a blind canyon where they're going to end up looking like they don't understand the average American at all.
Yeah, I I think so too. I think the resistance is going to be a lot harder this time around because people are onto it. They understand what President Trump and this administration is trying to do. But wow, what a blowout on Friday, Newt. Did you watch it live? Zelensky claims now Ukraine is ready. Okay, so Zelensky claims he's ready to sign the rare earth minerals deal now after that explosive Oval Office meeting with the president. Trump says Zelensky will be welcome back to the White House when and if he is ready for peace. And Secretary Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, said as of now, the deal is no longer on the table. Just in time for Zelensky says he's ready to sign. How do you see all of this?
Well, look, I actually thought that President Trump was very much behaving like President Eisenhower, who was very tough in negotiations and who, frankly, was very tough on the Europeans because Eisenhower was totally committed to America and he was committed to reducing the fiscal burden of government, and he wanted to make sure that our allies did their fair share. I think clearly Zelensky cheated on Friday. And if you look at the very opening, which the news media has not carried very much, well, you know, Trump is happy. He is positive. This is going to be a great meeting. We're going to get this signed. It's a step towards peace. And then all of a sudden it turns out Zelensky is not there to sign it. He's there to negotiate in front of the cameras. And I think that President Trump and Vice President Vance both felt that they had been cheated and hoodwinked, and they would not have accepted the meeting if they'd understood that Zelensky was not going to sign. Yeah. So I think Zelensky's in a deep hole. The Europeans cannot possibly replace America, and I think that he will have to come back to the table and have to sign something to regain the president's support.
Well, I mean, at a minimum, Trump got the Europeans to wake up, right? I mean, finally, they're saying, okay, we're going to come up with a peace plan and then show it to the United States. Zelensky spent the weekend, you know, with the Europeans, first meeting with UK Prime Minister in London. So at a minimum, that whole showdown got Europe to get involved.
Well, but what we're going to discover very quickly is that the Europeans can issue press statements. They have no money, they have no military, they have no capacity to replace us, and it's going to become very obvious that he has to come back to the United States.
All right, we'll leave it there. Speaker, always a pleasure. Great to see you, Newt Gingrich. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to MSNBC shortly after this commercial break. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin C and magnesium. This helps to boost up your immune system. Take a double dose if you're not feeling well because of the cold season. Make sure you drink it with filtered water because it's water soluble. And all the water that you drink should be filtered. So please go to my store and get the vitamin C with magnesium. Boost up your immune system. And this helps with your skin, especially when you take collagen. Another great dual purpose product is the olive leaf extract. This helps your immune system and your cardiovascular system, brings down inflammation, and helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. So please go to my store and get the olive leaf extract. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off any order. Good night formula. Really important to have good sleep. 3 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep is very important to consolidate memory, to detoxify your central nervous system, and to be well rested in the morning. If you do that regularly, you will slow down the aging process. Your immune system will be better. Your memory will be better. You'll have less toxins in your central nervous system. And it has been researched that sleep deprivation, chronic sleep deprivation, can lead to early onset of dementia and memory loss. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Good Night formula. It has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower, and a few other ingredients, all important for you to be well rested, detoxify your body, and to be in those cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep to consolidate memory. Very important. And what you'll notice by taking this every day is that your overall well-being is improving. It's a holistic approach, proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep, proper supplementation, learn new things. Very important. Please go to my store and get the Good Night formula. And lastly, vitamin B complex. This is extremely important to take if you're 40 years of age or older. Why? The first 4 B vitamins boosts up your mitochondrial health. It helps with the electron transport chain so you have more ATP. ATP is extremely important as you get older because your energy levels start to decline. You start to lose muscle mass, you start to lose bone density, and all of a sudden your neurons aren't working as well. All right. So it's just a steady decline. And it starts with energy. If you look at the youth, if you look at a 2-year-old or a puppy, what do you see? You see that they have a lot of energy. That's because they have a lot of ATP. But if you look at someone that's old, they don't have so much energy because they have low ATP. And a big part of that is mitochondrial health. So please boost up your mitochondrial health by taking the vitamin B complex. But not just that, this helps with cellular metabolism, and it's going to help to protect your neurons. Really super important when you turn 40, because you don't protect your neurons, you're going to have problems in your geriatric years. Guaranteed. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, take the vitamin B complex every day, protect your neurons, boost up your ATP levels, and improve your cellular metabolism. All right, let's go to MSNBC here.
Ukrainian President London over the weekend for a meeting with European leaders. And the reception he got there from the UK Prime Minister and other heads of state was notably different than his meeting with Trump. Look at that hug, look at this. Now, King Charles also invited the Ukrainian president to visit him at his country house where the two allies stood for pictures, smiling by a roaring fire. All of that, a very big contrast to that Oval Office meeting that continues to produce shockwaves around the world. And in the US, Trump's own former national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, saying the meeting made Russian President Vladimir Putin very happy.
Vladimir Putin couldn't be happier, Scott, because what he sees is all of the pressure on Zelensky, all of the pressure on Ukraine.
McMaster didn't like Trump.
Pressure on him. He appeals to President Trump's sense of aggrievement, right? That, Donald, like me, you've been treated so unfairly.
You seem to be saying that President Trump is being played.
He is being played.
Senator Amy Klobuchar is a Democrat out of Minnesota and a member of leadership for Senate Democrats. She was among the bipartisan group of senators that met with President Zelensky before the Oval Office meeting.
And she's trying to fund World War III and expansion of NATO. Just remember, this mistake goes all the way back to George Bush Sr. The expansion of NATO and the hubris that came out of the Pentagon when we won the Gulf War, which wasn't really won because we didn't go to Baghdad to kill the bad guy.
Does now. Senator Klobuchar, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. The fallout continues. I mean, you have today President Trump at the White House suggesting being very critical, insisting that a peace agreement to end the war with Russia it shouldn't be that hard and that it's within reach. How is this playing with our allies and frankly the Republican members who were in the room with you at that meeting with Zelensky?
Well, the meeting was so positive, Simone. It wasn't fake positive. It was real, including with the Republican members and including with President Zelensky. He was ready to go over there. He wants peace. And of course, his point at the meeting when he was berated by J.D. Vance was that Putin has violated these ceasefires and other agreements like the Minsk agreement over and over and over again, and that we needed to have a plan, including the European troops that the British and the French have pledged to enforce it. I was appalled by what happened. we have allies. And when you look at the economic situation right now with the tariffs that President Trump is talking about putting on our allies tomorrow, Canada, Mexico, and at the same time, he's cozying up to Russia. This makes no sense at all. Who do you want as your friends? The countries that are 50% of the economy, that's us and Europe and South Korea and Japan? Or do you want to be with North Korea, Russia, Iran? That is that friend group over there. And when you look at the numbers, Russia has like 2-3% of the economy. And why would you abandon them? So of course, at the same time, I want to help the Ukrainians. They have put themselves on the line. They've stopped Vladimir Putin from marching through their country right into Europe. And so whatever we can do to have a reset and to get the Republicans to quietly, because they won't stand up, put pressure on the Trump administration to get to the agreement that President Trump had wanted them to sign anyway, that's where we need to go to stand up with the Ukrainians instead of with Russia.
I would just note the minimal agreement that apparently does nothing for Ukraine, but hands over mining rights to American business companies, but I guess that's neither here nor there. The Wall Street Journal is reporting this evening that the United States is actually halting arms sales to Ukraine. What have you heard? Do you know about this?
I haven't heard that. And again, the Congress has appropriated money, right? That's what we do. We're Article 1. We're actually ahead of the president in the Constitution. And we did that. So it is one thing to have debates on the next budget, but what the Europeans and the Americans until now have been trying to do with Ukraine is to negotiate through our sanctions, through all of the things that are on the table, some kind of end to this war. And we certainly don't want to undermine President Zelensky, which is exactly what Vance did. And just so your viewers understand this, President Zelensky has thanked America over and over again. Vance was claiming he hadn't thanked anyone. Complete lie. He's thanked them in Congress. He's thanked them in public meetings, in private meetings. And the people of Ukraine are forever grateful to America. This is a solid ally. It's going to be an economic ally. And we need to stand with Ukraine.
The president's joint address to Congress is tomorrow. As I noted, you are a member of Senate leadership. That means you must go. But you are bringing the president of the Minnesota Farm Workers with you.
Yeah.
The Farmers Union. The last time that Donald Trump was in office, he dilly-dallied in the tariffs, if you will, that he's threatening again tomorrow, 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. And the last time, it's my understanding, Congress had to bail out the farmers because they were so hurt by the tariffs. So what are the Minnesota farmers saying about these tariffs?
Well, they want fair trade and they want to be able to sell their goods in the U.S. and abroad. And they don't want aid. That's not their preference, right? But instead, he's going to have to throw a bunch of money because he's doing these tariffs. And you look at a 25% tariff on Canada. That is Minnesota's biggest trading partner. There will be retaliatory tariffs coming right back at us. You're going to see the same with Mexico. And the estimates are this isn't just a tariff, it's a tax on families. That this was going to be over $1,200, with the newest ones even over $2,000 per year per family on average. And that is exactly while we're at a time where you already see coffee up 16%, eggs sky high, depending where you are, $8, $9 a dozen, lumber prices going up. And now he's going to add to this. The people that voted for him that wanted a change, okay, they thought that he was actually going to lower costs and do something about housing and childcare and prescription drugs. He is actually doing the opposite. And that is tomorrow night, Democrats are united on holding him accountable for this. And the guests that we are bringing, a number of us, are going to make that point that he is hurting average Americans. He is making things cost more for them, and he is cutting people like park rangers and cancer researchers and accidentally people who are guarding our nuclear stockpile. Then he tried to rehire them. All of that to find $2 trillion in tax cuts for the wealthiest people in our nation, for billionaires. That is our very straightforward message, and we are united on that.
Extremely straightforward. I will note for anyone that says, oh, Donald Trump might not do the tariffs. He said today there's no room left for talks. Senator Amy Klobuchar, appreciate your time. We will be watching you tomorrow.
Well, the reality of the situation is Americans have been importing deflation, shipping our manufacturing jobs overseas so we get cheap goods, even though when we start to bring back manufacturing to this country, there's going to be an adjustment period of higher prices. But the reality of the situation is the country will be more prosperous in the future by going through this transitionary period. So stop whining. The country will be better in the long run. Your life will be better. There will be more American jobs, good paying American jobs. So let's stop shipping good paying American jobs overseas just so we can import cheap goods. And guess what? You don't really benefit. The middle class doesn't really, you get a cheap good that benefits you, the middle class. But who really benefits from this globalization? Who really benefits from shipping good paying jobs overseas to low cost centers? The shareholders, the companies, not the middle class. The middle class gets a little bit benefit with lower prices, but you have less job security. You have less good paying jobs available. You have less manufacturing prowess, and the ability to manufacture for a war effort declines when you ship your manufacturing overseas. Now, if we have a sustained war that we really need to fight, like maybe Asia or the Middle East, guess what? You're going to need manufacturing. How do you think America performed in World War II? It was because of Detroit. That's simple. Because of Detroit. Because that's where the tanks were made. That's where the bombers were made. That's where the weapons were made. Detroit. But we shipped all that stuff overseas. We shipped it over to Canada or to Mexico because they believed in a concept called globalization that was promoted in these MBA schools in the 1980s. And we've been living on this concept of we ship our jobs overseas, we import cheaper goods because you have a declining wage, and shareholders benefit. So the rich will get richer because they have put most of their money in the stock market. Well, the little guy, the middle person, didn't or doesn't have as much exposure to the market. So the rich get richer, and you focus on price of eggs and price of a spatula. So the income disparity increased with globalization. Not to mention not being able to sustain a war effort if needed. It got so crazy that they wanted to sell US steel to a foreign country. Does that make much sense? Not so much. Now they're moving manufacturing back to the United States, and you're having other countries, other companies from other countries coming in and building fab centers in Arizona now for chips, hiring American workers, American manufacturing. It doesn't have to be an American company, but it's American manufacturing. And it creates an ecosystem. And by creating that ecosystem, that economic ecosystem, there are going to be other jobs and other businesses that are created. But when you ship manufacturing away, then you're destroying the economic clustering. and the mom and pop shops and the small businesses start to decline. The Walmart family got rich because you wanted cheap goods. And they got rich by sending manufacturing overseas to China. And Walmart and Amazon has destroyed small businesses, family businesses. So when you hear senators or representatives in Congress talking about, oh, you got to worry about the inflation. Inflation, it's going to happen. But you got to remember what they were doing. They were shipping your manufacturing overseas so you can import cheap goods. And Congress was overspending and selling bonds in the international market to the countries that were selling us our goods. So China was selling cheap goods for Walmart. You buy at Walmart. Walmart is paying the Chinese in dollars, and the Chinese have all these dollars now. And guess what? Guess what? They take some of those dollars, many of those dollars, and buys the bonds that the Treasury Department is issuing to pay to finance the debt that the government, Congress, has passed in a bill. So if you bring back manufacturing, you're cutting off the funding mechanism that Congress has been doing since this globalization thing has been really gaining steam, especially in the 90s. From the 90s onward, the debt is increasing. So if you move back the manufacturing, there's good paying jobs, and there's more economic clustering, then you're going to have a more vibrant economy. And you're going to have a more self-sustaining system. And then when people are doing better, you don't need to have so many social programs. Ooh. And if you don't need so many social programs because the economy is good, what the Democrats are selling you, no one needs, because they're only about giving you social programs. Now do you understand the whole goal of globalization? You get it? Trust me, this transitionary period that we're going through in the economy, when there is going to be inflation, it's going to be hurting people. I understand that. But in the long run, it's going to be better for the country, because guess what? We have been addicted to this importing of deflation from these cheap cost centers like China. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gel. I have it in a tube form and in this quick dispenser. Have this at home and at work. You never know when you need it. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or burn. It'll help to heal it quicker. You can use it as a skincare. You can use it as an aftershave. Guess what? You can even use it if someone doesn't feel so well during the cold season. Put it on your hands, around your nose, around your eyes, around your nose, or around your ears, and lightly coat your nostrils. Stays active for 5.5 hours. You can't do that with the other sanitizers that people use, like Perel. This is much better than Perel. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver gel. It's dual purpose. And I believe in providing stacks and different products that give you dual purpose so you get more bang for your buck. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Now, vitamin D3 and K2 stack is really important because it could help with your bone health and your cardiovascular health. Take vitamin D3. It'll help to soak up or absorb calcium. It will help with gene expression and help with getting rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis, especially if they're infected. Now, D3 can help with the cardiovascular because it's helping to pull out, especially when you stack with the K2, it's helping to pull out and prevent the depositing of calcium around plaque. But also D3 and K2, when you do resistance training and you take calcium supplements or drink milk like I do, and you do your resistance training, stack the D3 and the K2 together, you're actually helping improve your bone density over time. So that's really important when you get older. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take this D3 K2 stack, help with your cardiovascular health and help with your bone density. It's important to focus on bone density early on because it takes time, like 5 to 7 years, to actually remodel the matrix. All right. Now, that first year, you are improving, but it takes time. And the earlier you do it, the better, because you don't lose as much bone density. Because what happens when you get older, you start to just break up the minerals that make up the bone and you literally urinate it out. You don't want that. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. Take this stack, help with your bone density and your cardiovascular health. All right. See, they want you to think, just focus on the here and now. Just focus on the now. But you don't realize that we're in this problem. We're in so much debt. And we have shipped so much of our manufacturing out, and our kids can't read, and you have kids that can't read, and you can't write, and you can't do mathematics. That's a big problem. Big problem. And I do know this. Kids need to learn how to build stuff. Tinker around. Get them off of these iPads and iPhone type stuff, the screens. They need to be learning sports and building stuff and interacting. No, today we got kids that are retarded, obese, have ADHD and anxiety problems and, and on the spectrum and every other freaking excuse. And it's really simple. It's really simple. A big part of it is their environment. And a big part of it is the parents let it happen. All right. Let's go to France 24. See what they're talking. They're talking about the Pope.
Well-oriented and also collaborative as they carried out all these procedures. So very much wanted to stress that the pontiff is aware of what is going on with him, but the prognosis remains guarded. And that essentially means that he's not out of danger anytime yet.
Well, that's it from all of us on the Night Watch team for now, but do stay tuned to Plus 24 the debates with François Picard is up next.
Are we ready for a post-NATO Europe? King Charles welcoming Volodymyr Zelensky to his Sandringham estate in images that evoke the days of Charles's grandfather when Britain bravely held down the fort before the U.S. entered World War II. Ever since the continent had relied on Washington's security umbrella, that is until now. What many call the ambush of Ukraine's president on live television last Friday came complete with what sounds an awful lot like Kremlin talking points. Trump and J.D. Vance blaming the invasion on Kyiv and NATO. That was enough to turn what was supposed to be an already solemn debrief of Keir Starmer's turn in Washington last week into a major brainstorm session Sunday in London. If push came to shove, would Europe be ready for a post-NATO world? And does Trump siding with Putin bring the continent closer than ever to a direct confrontation with Russia, something unseen throughout the Cold War? Today in the France 24 debate, can Europe go it alone? With us from Brussels, he's a former Italian EU affairs minister, today French member of the European Parliament for Emmanuel Macron's Renew.
As he's introducing everybody, because I really don't care where they're from, I just care about their ideas. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAD+. I take NAD+ to boost up my energy levels, repair my DNA damage, and to protect my neurons. So you should do the same thing. Don't you want to follow Dr. Paul Cottrell? Because guess what? His protocol works. So NAD+, boost up that energy level, repair cellular and mitochondrial DNA, and protect your neurons. Extremely important. You can stack it with ubiquinol, great stack. Now, ubiquinol is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals. It's also going to help with your mitochondrial. You're going to get energy levels. ATP levels are going to go up. And ubiquinol helps to protect your neurons. Really important. Ubiquinol is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can get. You can't get anything better than this. You can't. All right? I got the best stuff. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this ubiquinol. Take it every day. Protect your neurons. Also soak up free radicals and improve your mitochondrial health. Now, another great stack with NAD+ with ubiquinol is resveratrol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. All right? It's very important to take. It's an antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to help with the mitochondria. You're going to have better energy levels. It gets rid of cells that are in senescence. When cells are in senescence, they start collecting garbage, and guess what? Your tissues don't perform as well. You want to get rid of them. So take resveratrol every day. This is a great stack with also C60. If you want to improve your skin, take C60 and resveratrol. The collagen and vitamin C and the structural nanosilver gel, that's a great combo to improve your skin health. Another thing that resveratrol does is that it works even better when you stack it with very strong antioxidants like C60. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take resveratrol. Listen to me. Take resveratrol with something else like C60, and you get the max benefits from resveratrol. Or stack it with ubiquinol and NAD+. You know, so you're getting rid of cells that are in senescence. You're soaking up free radicals. You're repairing your DNA, and including your mitochondrial DNA, and you're protecting your neurons all at once. So it's a multi-purpose stack. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of all my videos. Click the link, use discount 5, and you get $5 off. I want these products in your hands. Why? Because they work. It's that simple. And by you supporting my work, you're supporting your health. It's a dual win.
With not the US, but with American counterparts to get to make them still in the process of discussion.
Including active military, including the officials in the Pentagon right now?
Including part of our counterpart at the Pentagon, of course, because they are our counterpart and they are the first concerned with and engaged in the current war in Ukraine. And it's not only in the Pentagon, it's also in Europe at the European Command, I would say.
Sandro Gozzi, last week there was the visit of Emmanuel Macron the visit of Keir Starmer and then the visit of Volodymyr Zelensky. You were in Washington, if I get the timeline right, before Friday. Did you see this coming?
Well, I saw the comments, and I saw what happened in Washington at the White House, and I had a chance also to discuss this with the advisor of President Trump and Republican and Democrat member of the Congress. And I think that it is a major mistake that Trump and Vance did. This ambush was disgraceful, and I think it doesn't really make sense. The policy, foreign policy line, if there is any, of Donald Trump and Vance, because it doesn't make sense to try to strike a deal on Ukraine without the Ukrainians, directly with Russia. It doesn't make sense to talk about European security without the Europeans. It doesn't make sense, you know, when you are in Washington, and this hasn't changed that much between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. I mean, the obsession of our American friend is China, is the competition against China, it's China aggressive stance on the geopolitical scene. And I mean, bashing like that, bashing as Donald Trump did the Europeans last week, if China is considered the main threat, doesn't make sense to me. And it is clear that there are provocations to which we don't have to respond, but we have to remain firm on our principle, and we have to draw consequently that there is a major shift in the American foreign policy, and there must be, therefore, a major shift also on European security and foreign policy. But I mean,
do you agree with Maud Cassal's statement that, you know, that you have to keep those channels of communication open?
Of course.
Certainly, you have to keep the communication open. Certainly, you don't have to respond in an aggressive way to the aggressive stance of Trump. It is clear that we have to explain to our American friend, as we did in our visit, that no, the EU was not born to screw the US, as Donald Trump has said. I mean, these kind of statements are totally useless, but it is clear that we have to keep a channel of dialogue, and I think that the work that Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer, supported by all the other European leaders, are doing is absolutely necessary, and I hope that will bear some fruit sooner than later.
Craig, so allow me to play devil's advocate for a second here. Donald Trump, you know, we talk about his transactional side, negotiations, and we saw during his first term, you know, threatening a lot of tariffs, and in the end, not so many were imposed. Again, is this all just part of political theater? After all, he concluded his statement by saying this will make great television. So are we making too much of this, or is it, as Anastasia says, a sunset for transatlantic relations?
I think it is. I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do 2 tours at the Harriman Institute years ago, work and report in Russia for many years, studying under what were known at the time as the wise men, guys like John Hazard, George Kennan, Harriman, Averell Harriman. And one of those wise men was a fellow by the name of Chip Boland, who was former ambassador to France and to Russia. And he said at the time, he said, what's public is propaganda, what's secret is serious. So let's start with that notion from a wise man who helped formulate post-World War II policy.
Yeah, we had an academic earlier talking about how surprised she was to see the policy play out in public.
So does Boland's observation work here? With Trump, I don't think so. Trump is all theater and performance art. And
so he's not ideological.
I don't think he would know how to spell the word. What we saw was an American ally being bushwhacked by Russians on United States soil.
Come on, Russians?
Yes, these were all Russian talking points. Now, there's a diplomatic aspect to this, and if the diplomats want to discuss this in their diplomatic detail, bless your hearts, but I'm not here to discuss therapy sessions about how to handle Donald Trump. There's a grave new world out there We have US senators like Mike Lee calling for the United States to leave NATO. You're looking at a soul-destroying tyranny, work in Ukraine. And if you think they're going to stop there and not come into Europe, well, then you are whistling past the proverbial graveyard. You have the odious apparatus of the KGB, operational here as well. Now, and what are we left with? Are you going to trust the Europeans to deal with this, with a KGB agent, with a war criminal who tried to blow up Chernobyl twice last week and send a radiation cloud this way? Are you going to trust him? Are you going to trust Donald Trump, who let 5 casinos go bankrupt, negotiate with him, with a negotiating team who did not have a chance to study like you folks did? If that's what America wants, let him do it, because he's the president of the United States, and it's not going to change. So it's a grave new world out there. He's either impeached and thrown out, or something happens at the midterm elections. But right now, it's changed everything.
It's changed for good.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This is made from structural nano silver. It's fluoride free. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, maintain a good gum line, reduce inflammation, neutralize pathogens that build up the tartar and the plaque on your teeth. And guess what? By having good oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and valvular disease. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get a few tubes of this toothpaste. This is the best toothpaste that you can get. And it's really important to improve your oral hygiene, especially when you get older, because you don't want to create occlusions or cause increase cardiovascular issues or valvular issues. A lot of people don't realize when you have irritation and bleedy gums and bad oral hygiene, especially when people get older, what will happen is that small pieces of plaque will get into your bloodstream, very small pieces, very microscopic, and it can cause an occlusion. Or it's creating inflammation in your vascular system and leading to further plaque buildup. Or you're creating inflammation on your valve, and you're getting calcium depositing and stenosis in the valve, or sometimes even bacterial infections that could grow onto the valve and cause valvular problems. You know, there are many different types of valvular problems. Many people that are older, they have stenosis, like a hardening of the valve, the buildup of plaque, or a buildup of calcium for the actual valve, and it doesn't close properly and it's stiff. So they have to have a valve replacement. You don't want that. Another thing is that with inflammation of the valve, it can weaken the valve and lead to a prolapse and regurgitation. These are all bad things for your heart, all right? You don't want that. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the structural nano silver toothpaste. This is the best toothpaste that you're going to be able to buy. Is it more expensive? Is it more expensive? Yes, but there's a reason for that. It's because of the ingredients. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You will not be able to buy a better toothpaste than this. So either listen to me or don't listen to me. You want to have valvular disease later in life? You ever see someone that actually had valvular disease and all the problems that they have with their heart? You don't want that, trust me. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. C60, a very strong antioxidant. Actually, you can't buy a stronger antioxidant. So you can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. You can get it in MCT coconut oil, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil. You take a teaspoon a day, every day. And what you're going to notice is that your mitochondria is going to be more efficient and healthier. That means your ATP is going to go up. So you're going to have more energy. And those cells and those tissues are going to perform better because it has more ATP. It'll soak up the free radicals, reduce the stress in the cell and in the tissues. So your organ systems, your immune system, your endocrine system, your neurons are all going to perform better. Because it's reduced the stress on those cells. Because it's soaked up the free radicals and it's boosting up your ATP because it's improving the mitochondrial health. And when you soak up free radicals in your serum, in your bloodstream, you're reducing buildup of plaque because you need LDL oxidized to start making plaque. But if you don't have free radicals, your LDL can't oxidize. So if you take a very strong antioxidant every day and you eat properly and you exercise and you improve your total cholesterol, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease. Are you listening? I mean, I have been saying this for, I don't know, hundreds of episodes, like in the last just few months. I've given you the recipe to solve cardiovascular disease in most cases in the United States. I've also given you the recipe on how to slow down and reverse most cases in the United States for diabetes. I've also told you how to improve your bone health and your neural health. It's a holistic approach. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take a teaspoon of this every day and you stack it the way I tell you to stack it. You're going to improve your skin. You're going to improve your metabolism. You're going to slow down the aging process. You're going to have a boosted immune system, and your endocrine system is going to perform better. Your thyroid is going to perform better. Your glands are going to perform better. Your kidneys are going to perform better. Guess what? Even your adrenal glands are going to perform better. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the C60 and stack it the way I'm telling you to stack it. Like I said before, a great stack is taking C60, taking the Max 35, taking the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, and taking the Boomer Boost. That's a very powerful stack. Another stack is taking C60 with resveratrol, with collagen, vitamin C, drinking filtered water, and topically putting on the structural nanosilver gel for your skin. How does that work, Dr. Paul Cottrell? C60 and resveratrol helps with your basal layer. The collagen and the vitamin C with the cross-linking with water, filtered water, is going to improve your dermal layer. And the structural nanosilver gel is going to help topically the top of your skin. Wow, amazing how that works. But you think that just improved skin is just going to be putting on, some really expensive lotion. Wrong. I'm telling you, there is nothing in terms of skincare better than the stack that I just told you. Nothing. But I apply all these different stacks, all right, that I use. But all these different stacks, they're comprehensive and they're dual purpose. They're expensive if you want to do everything, but they work because you're targeting all the right things. See, a lot of people, they think that, go to a big company and, get this really expensive whatever. Some people say, well, just take retinol. No, wrong. I just told you the recipe. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
I say the same thing. I just say that the European have lost a lot of time building up a strategic autonomy, and now there is a historical major shift in the attitude of the United States of America. We are in trouble and we should accelerate, and I fully agree that the next in line is another European country if we let Putin do what he wants to do in Ukraine. So there is no difference, probably in the tone between the expert that you have in the studio and myself, but on the content, we fully agree. On the other issues, the message that Jim Jordan gave us was very clear, and we talk about digital issues. I mean, I don't know if it is true that they had the talking point from Russia when they met Zelensky. Certainly the new administration has got talking point from the big tech, from X, from Facebook, when they talk about digital legislation. And the message that, was given to us from Washington is that the Digital Service Act restricts freedom of expression, which is not true. We simply say that freedom of speech is not freedom of speech, that we need to protect ourselves from strong foreign interference. They consider the Digital Market Act as a protection attack against the big American company, the American big tech, and they think that our path to artificial intelligence is totally wrong. I think we were very clear to our interlocutors. We explained that our digital law are there to make our market more efficient, more open, to better protect our consumer. There is nothing against the freedom of expression. There is nothing against the American big tech. But this is a situation that I think there again, without giving in the provocation, we must be firm. We are sovereign. We adopted digital legislation. We must implement them. And by the way, apart from the big tech, all the other representatives of American businesses, they say that our choice was the good one. So there is a very strong problem of strong influence of 4 or 5 big tech on the position of the U.S. administration on our digital legislation. And this is the reason why we are there.
So, Kapitas, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Because two views here in terms of, is it the Putin influence that you talked about earlier, or just simply the Silicon Valley influence on this administration?
Well, it's about money. I love this word, interlocutors. I'm going to go full tilt boogie de Gaulle. Diplomats are useful only in fair weather. As soon as it rains, they drown in every drop. I see a lot of people on this panel, I'm not going to point to anyone, drowning in every drop. Now, de Gaulle also said the treaties are like roses and young girls. They last while they last. This is all about money, to your point of Silicon Valley. Okay? So what's needed to keep Putin at bay is money. Where is Europe going to get it? Now, I'm going to go full tilt boogie again on Harriman Institute, where I had the good opportunity to study. And we were taught to think ahead, 5 or 6 steps, cascade effects. Where is the money for us to buy the weapons we need from America to keep Putin out of Ukraine, keep him out of Europe, let him do whatever the hell he wants in Russia to his people? We don't care. Just stay out of our hair. Where is that money? It's in Norway. And there have been discussions with the Norwegians to tap into their $2 trillion sovereign wealth fund. The Norwegians don't like to be kicked around. To use some of this money, you could look it up. Some Norwegian companies have already said they're not going to refuel American military naval vessels that are coming into Norway because they're so fed up with Trump.
They were overruled by the defense.
Yes, exactly.
Let them be overruled by the defense ministry. I'm telling you, this is real world stuff. Because these guys might just say, we're not going to fill your tanks. We don't know. So the question is, where does Europe get the money to hold Putin back? You want to talk diplomacy? Please be my guest But I think that's like the therapy session.
All right, move kiss out on this point, the money issue.
On the money issue, so you just tackle that issue, saying that perhaps the way that we would have to respond is by boycotting part of the current administration that is backed up by the big tech, because that was part of your question. And that's also what is at stake with Musk's Tesla and what happened. And we have the figures of those few weeks. And what
Car sales down 42% in January.
Yes, you just mentioned that in Norway, the official would not back up this initiative. But what about the people? Because all this discussion is about the public opinion, both in Europe and in the United States. If the European people are backing our political leader to stand against Putin and Trump, then it's going to be something else, because it's going to be the main issue for our European political leader, but also for American political leaders on the other side of the Atlantic, because they have to respond to the American voters, and what they have to respond to American voters is all about economy, inflation, and they have to. Trump wants to respond to American taxpayers. So let's talk about this.
How do you see European public opinion right now? Is it siding with Zelensky? What's your take on it? My feeling is yes. The Europeans are fed up with the Americans, but I haven't seen any surveys or studies. What have you got, sir?
The thing is, it's very interesting to note that we have a war fatigue about Ukraine, both in the US and in North America in general, and also in Europe. So we have to be very careful about that, and about the sense and perspective about the conflict and about war. Because backing with Ukraine, when you think that is just a support for a humanitarian support, that's one thing. Then making your public opinion aware that you're going to be engaged in a war, because Putin is not going to stop at the Ukrainian border, but wants to dismantle NATO. That's something else. And that's the job we have here, all of us, media, public media in particular, and intellectuals, academic. We have to make people aware of what is exactly the nature of the threat we are facing.
And one of the aspects of the nature of the threat is cyber attacks. And Anastasia Shapachkina, we saw the U.S. Defense Secretary announce a pause on offensive cyber operations against Russia. Again, the academic we spoke to from University College London earlier is surprised, first of all, that this was announced publicly, and secondly, that there's no whiff of a guarantee in return. There's nothing in exchange. How risky or dangerous or volatile is it?
I'm telling you, this for me is inscribing itself in the Trump's vision of America, right, which he had advertised before the elections, which he's now very busy implementing. And the vision is to take America apart, brick by brick, taking apart the agencies, taking apart the leverage it had in the world, and including in the alliances. The seed is still warm.
But I guess I'll put the question differently too. How vulnerable is Europe without the U.S.'s backup when it comes to the issues of intelligence?
Very vulnerable.
And,
the Ukrainian experience shows very clearly that Europe is extremely vulnerable. Everybody's thinking, what is going to happen if, let's say, the Department of Defense stops supplying the Starlinks, which Elon Musk is producing.
Which are low-orbit satellite systems.
Which allow the internet to be captured in any area where there is no wire, So this is not just the question for Ukraine, right? Everybody's looking at Ukraine, seeing this, and just starting to really feel the heartbeat, because of course, stripping ourselves of that infrastructure, that support is going to be dramatic. However, I just want to come back to this point, how many years it was Member of Parliament, Mr. Gorsi was just saying, how many years does it take to bring up to speed your own defense sector? It depends. The defense autonomy, Turkey acquired defense autonomy in a matter of about 5 years after the US introduced embargo on its weapon supply to Turkey, after Turkey wanted to buy S-400s from Russia. Now, the US got its defense autonomy built up from scratch, from, paper planes, pretty much, during 5 years of World War II. Now, India has been trying to do the same over the last 25 years because India is in no rush. China took its time to build its defense and then to really muscle up. It didn't have any pressure, right?
Necessity is the mother of invention.
But you can do it in any time. You don't need to wait for 10 years. You definitely don't need to wait for public opinion.
Is it true, particularly since the Russian army is being degraded at such a
the only reason this meeting happened, is happening, this conversations happen, is because Putin needs a break. It's not because America wants to end the war. It's not because Ukraine wants to end the war. Ukraine is definitely has the lowest leverage, but because Russia needs a break.
All right, Kissel, let me ask you about this because there's always a bit of fog of war. I've seen the reports last couple of
Both
weeks.
sides are exhausted. Both sides are exhausted. And that's why they need to negotiate a peace agreement. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NAC. NAC is something I've added to my stack. Why? To boost up my glutathione levels to soak up free radicals. The more ways you soak up free radicals, the better. NAC also helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, especially if you take acetaminophen. And NAC helps with lung health. Really important post-2020. Trust me. So take NAC every day. You'll get an added benefit. Hint, hint. And NAC will also help with anxiety and get your nervous system into parasympathetic. That's really important because if you're chronically in sympathetic, your heart rate is higher and you don't want that. If you're chronically in sympathetic, your cortisol levels are too high. That's immunosuppressive. That's bad for you. So you want to calm that down, go into parasympathetic. NAC is going to help you with that. So there's 4 great benefits of taking NAC. Soaks up free radicals by boosting up glutathione. You're detoxifying your liver and your kidney. You're helping with your lung health and helping it heal. And guess what? It also helps with your central nervous system, your nervous system, and bringing it from sympathetic to parasympathetic. All right. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take NAC. Take it every day. It's really important. Many anti-agers that are, really, professional anti-agers, it's almost like a sport. NAC is a major part of their stack. So I've added it and have noticed a good improvement. I do now have Clarity Factor back in stock. It's been out of stock since December. So it's in stock. I have a lot of it available. So please get the Clarity Factor. For the ones that don't know about Clarity Factor is something that you should be taking once a day or twice a day. All right. I take it twice a day. I take it in the morning and I take it in the afternoon. And what that's going to do is it allows you to focus and it helps with memory. And if you're doing a lot of cognitive work, either through school or through work or just, you're doing a lot of cognitive type things, taking Clarity Factor is really important to take twice a day. All right. But taking it once a day for everybody to have that concentration and that focus and to help with memory is really important. And when you're improving your memory, you're actually going to push back and reduce or mitigate your neurons from going into negative neuroplasticity. You want positive neuroplasticity. So when your neurons are firing and you're concentrating, then what's going to happen is that there's these positive growth factors with your neurons where your dendrite on your neuron is going to attach to other neurons and create more networks. So this is what I call positive neuroplasticity. Negative neuroplasticity is when those connections start to recede. And it's at the technical term, it's called depression, actually. But the thing is that you don't want that, all right? You want positive neuroplasticity, more connections, because with more connections, your memory is better, you think faster. If you look at someone that's older, they think a little slower, their memory is starting to fade. That's because they're having negative neuroplasticity. This is going to help with positive neuroplasticity. This would stack really well with ubiquinol, with NAD+, with C60. Why C60? Remember what I said. If you boost up the energy levels and reduce the stress in the neuron, you're going to be able to build more neurotransmitters, and the neurons are going to fire more often. So C60 is synergistic with clarity factor. So a great stack would be clarity factor with C60 or ubiquinol or NAD+ or all of them together. Now, I just gave you a wonderful way to improve your neural health, improve memory, think faster, and reduce the chances of neurodegeneration later in life. So take clarity factor every day. If you do a lot of cognitive function type work, take it twice a day. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's back in stock. It's been out of stock since the beginning of December. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the clarity factor. This is a wonderful product.
Some kind of successful outcome. There can be some kind of decision that comes out of that summit.
I think that we have to push for that. We have to do everything we can do for that. But I repeat again, yes, sense of urgency, but let's not forget the institution. The EU is not equipped with this governance as this institution to face security and war. So we have also to change the governance of the union. And every time there is someone that tells me there are more urgent things to do, we have to do both. We have to do what allows us to answer to the immediate crisis, what we are doing, what Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer are doing. But once for all, we have to change the European Union, because in this new world disorder, the European Union cannot act as a credible defense, security, and foreign policy actor without changing the governance. So the two things must be done together.
So that the viewer is not confused here. What are we looking at going forward on defense? Are we looking for Europe to have its own defense commission, or are we looking for a NATO light? After all, we saw the likes of Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, attend the meeting on Sunday. What do you see as the most realistic outcome?
The most realistic outcome has to be thought about in the short term, because there's an emergency. And obviously, the NATO perspective and the European pillar of NATO I was talking about in the first place is certainly the best option, because we've been thinking about, not only thinking, but working on it for years. And what happened in London was not just the result of what happened last Friday, the TV show that we talked about in the first place. It's also something that was thought about in the long run. The Weimar discussions are put into the table. That's something that we're talking about between Europeans. Obviously, it's not the 27 we mentioned. It's the eastern country from the eastern flank, Poland, obviously Ukraine, the Baltic states, but also Northern Europe. We mentioned Norway earlier in the discussion, and they are part of this move. And if the rest of the illiberal nationalist European do not want to move with us, we have to make a choice between values and economy, security, or it's while EU was
built for, and it's also part of what the values that are shared among NATO members. Even if big allies like the US would sometimes forget about those particular values. That's a problem of values, and we are about to mobilize the UK, even Germany, about that.
Yes, Churchill called it the courage to continue.
Exactly.
And that's what's lacking here. Look, I think that Sandra's on the money when you talk about the funds that have been seized. But frankly, I don't see those funds being released. They should have been released a long time ago.
Whose remit is it to release them?
That's a good question, Francois. You know, my son was at a law firm this summer that was dealing with that issue, interning, and after 4 months there, they still didn't know. There were so many various tranches and who controls this, that, and the other thing, and even Bill Browder, who knows this stuff inside and out. I don't think even Bill's sure of it. So I don't. Sandra's right. You're right. But who's going to do it? Who's going to say, let the money go? I don't see that happening. It comes back to this courage to continue. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely right. Europe needs to take a leadership position here because Donald Trump is not part of our world here anymore. My job is to cover this world here. And I can tell you when I cover it, they don't want to know about Donald Trump. She scares the bejesus out of everyone. Sorry, but that's the reality on the ground here.
He scares the bejesus out of almost everyone. We heard pushback this week from French far-right leader Marine Le Pen over the weekend. She said in a tweet that the European Commission totally goes beyond the boundaries of its remit when it talks about defense. As always, it uses a crisis to allot itself powers that belong to the member states.
Marine Le Pen, a long-standing member of the Putin payroll, together with the party. Yeah, I don't want to obviously spend my time discussing what her tweets, but what I want to say is that what Maud was saying is absolutely, I join her in this, that it's a choice, between security and friendship with America. And it's very scary, when you have when you're facing a divorce or you're facing in a high school, you're facing the total loss of a best friend. It's very painful. But have you ever met a person who divorced and then regretted it? It's never happened. People who divorce usually they are actually happier after the divorce than before, than during, and well, during the marriage. It is really remarkable. The fears of losing are usually more scary than the loss itself. And what we're going to be losing today.
So hang on, are you saying with NATO it's better to be from a broken home than to live in a broken home?
I think that unless Europe starts thinking now, we know now, okay, America is doing everything to show that it's a new and reliable friend of Russia, one way or the other, that Russia can really count on it to represent itself in the Munich Security Council, to represent itself at the White House, to represent Russian interests in the UN General Assembly. This is a new reality, and we can still, want to come.
What's wrong with bringing Russia into the Western orbit? Normalize, create economic prosperity for all the nations, Europe, Russia, and the United States. Strengthen those ties. Reduce the hegemonic power that is rising through the BRICS. Because if Russia is aligned with the United States, BRICS are dead. The BRICS, that whole concept is dead. And with the United States allying with India, you have two really important allies for a multi-front war on China. But they want to just worry about, well, you're aligning with Putin. This is way beyond Putin. It's about bringing Russia into a larger economic orbit with the United States. And they don't get it. They don't get it. They're perma-bears. They're perma-bears from a Cold War mentality. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. Myotrol helps with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle and to help with mitochondrial health. It has flavonoids, lignans, and polyphenols to do this. It stacks really well with Gladiator barley. Now, Gladiator barley is a high density protein that I'll be talking about. But when you're doing resistance training, you need to build muscle, right? Well, you need the material to build the muscle, but you also need the gene expression to build the muscle. Myotrol is going to help with the gene expression. And Gladiator barley is a great source of protein to actually build the muscle. Not only that, it'll help to reduce the inflammation during your workout so you recover quicker. So, and this also has lignans to bring down inflammation and you recover quicker too. So this is a great stack if you're an athlete, but even if you're not an athlete, this is a great stack to be able to stop the atrophying of just normal aging, because most people lose muscle mass as you age. So that's why it's so important to approach this from a holistic point of view. You need to work out, you need to do cardio, you need to do resistance training, you need to do balancing exercises and stretching and taking the right supplementation. It's a holistic approach. So when you take the Myotrol, you're going to be able to, if you're working out, all right, let's say you're not taking Gladiator barley, all right, and you're working out and you're older, all right, taking Myotrol and doing weight training, you're going to build muscle. You'll build muscle even faster if you're taking the Myotrol and the Gladiator barley together, all right? But it's important to weight lift, male, female, especially when you get older, to reduce this atrophy. And also, by weightlifting, you're going to increase your bone density. So take the Myotrol, get those genes expressing to build muscle and maintain muscle and to help with mitochondrial health. Take the Myotrol. It's a great supplement, and it stacks really well with Gladiator barley. Now, Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost is the last pillar of my core health protocol. The first pillar is max 35 or max 14 to boost up your immune system. C60 to soak up free radicals and bring down the stress in the cells and the tissues. Turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down inflammation and boost up your immune system. And Boomer Boost helps with boosting up your energy levels and your metabolism. You will lose weight by taking this. There's 68 ingredients. There's lots in here. Go to my store, take a look at the label. There's a scooper, take a full scoop each day. Take it either in the morning or in the afternoon with soft foods like hummus or yogurt. You can mix it in a smoothie. You can take it with just filtered water. Some people take it with milk. It's up to you. But that is your meal for the breakfast or for lunch. You're only taking it once a day. You're going to lose weight. You're going to have a steady burn of energy, and you are literally going to feel more vitality within 72 hours. You're going to sleep better in 72 hours or less. But the thing is that you're going to feel different after 72 hours. You're going to start feeling more energy, and you're going to have more vitality. And because of that, you're actually going to be more active. You're just going to naturally be more active. You're sleeping better. You're going to just be detoxifying your body, and everything starts to come in line. So take Boomer Boost every day. It stacks really well with the lignans, the ashwagandha, the turmeric, the C60, the max 35 or max 14. That's a great stack. All right. But some people don't want to do that. You can just take Boomer Boost by itself. Take it once a day. Now, if you're an athlete, you can use this for your pre-workout fueling or your after-workout fueling. Now, I also have Gladiator barley and heirloom barley. It's a high-density barley, and Gladiator barley focuses on the strength, detox, brings down inflammation, and soaks up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. It's a high-density protein. You can't buy this barley at the regular store, right? This is really special stuff, all right? So take a half a scoop or a full scoop each day. You can take it by itself, soft foods, filtered water, milk, however you want to take it. Or you can stack it. Now, there's another type of barley that I offer called the heirloom barley. That you get the same benefits of gladiator barley, but you don't get the strength benefits. So if you're not focused on the strength benefits, but you want to detox, you want to bring down inflammation, you want to soak up those free radicals with superoxide dismutase, then take the heirloom barley. But if you want to get strength, guess what? You should be taking the gladiator barley. Males and females, all right? And it stacks really well with this. You're going to lose weight, you're going to gain strength, you're going to detoxify your body, you're going to soak up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. And with Boomer Boost, you're going to boost up your metabolism. Your energy levels are going to improve. Boomer Boost also targets different systems in your body, improves your brain function and your cardiovascular health. So, and muscle and strength. That's why this is such a great stack. Now, if you're an athlete, this is a really great stack for pre or post workout fueling. Now, if you are an athlete, stacking all three together is the best combo. Taking the myotrol to do the gene expression for building muscle. Taking the gladiator barley, which is the building blocks to making the muscle. And the Boomer Boost is the other nutrients that you need for overall body health. And this is a great way to bring down inflammation. So you're going to recover quicker. So please go to my store, take this stack. You can take the Boomer Boost by itself, or the gladiator barley or the heirloom barley by itself, but stacking it is the best. I have a longevity boost box that is at a discount where you get the Boomer Boost and your choice of gladiator barley or heirloom barley. And it's at a discount. It's built-in discount for my longevity boxes and my anti-aging boxes. And you can use discount 5 on top of that to get $5 off. So it behooves you to get the anti-aging boxes and the longevity boxes. They're the best value. But you can stack things the way you want, all right? I've given you like thousands of ways to stack this stuff. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Take this stack, build up energy levels, build up muscle. And not only that, you're detoxifying your body and you're controlling your A1C levels. Now, I just told you some great ways to get healthy. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Now, that was my transmission for today. My overall conclusion with the whole Ukrainian, Putin, Trump thing is that we need to end the war and bring peace and prosperity to the Western nations and bring Russia into that economic alliance. And when you do that, there's going to be more incentive to de-escalate conflict and improve economic relations. And you'll have a better ally when you need it if we have to go to war with the CCP. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Have a good night.